open borders, shameful abandonment, disregard for human life, the prospect of more mandates and lockdowns, and the list goes on. Now more than ever, we need to stick together. Voting alone is not enough. We must use our dollars to support like-minded companies that fight for our rights and beliefs. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. Last year, we gave more than $500,000 to conservative causes. With your support, we'll give more than $1.5 million this year. It's time to band together and support companies that truly love America and fight for our freedoms. Will you join us?
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
Welcome to Kentucky's Voice on this beautiful Friday, August 7, 2026. We are so happy that you are with us today, our great listeners out there. This is Kentucky's Voice. And when we say Kentucky's Voice, we mean your voice. And we just want to echo what we hope that conservative Christian thinkers out in our beautiful Commonwealth are saying. So we hope you'll be a part of the conversation at 502-571-0970. And also visit us online and help support our program. We sure would love to have you with us all the time. I'm Debbie Robbins, and I'm excited to be joined by my great co-host, Bob Scott. And Tom is on assignment. He'll be back with us soon. And we've got two amazing guests here today, and we are really thrilled that they are with us. You're going to love both of them. You're going to learn so much. And I just want to say this week, it's been a crazy week again in Washington, but exciting for conservatives because every single time President Trump gets his ideas or his proposals get knocked aside, I say God always has a way of rearranging and making things happen. So, for example, Senator Paul was able to get a contempt of Congress vote passed yesterday in the Senate. It went straight to the Department of Justice. So maybe, just maybe, we're going to see a little bit of justice when it comes to Dr. Anthony Fauci and the lives that he has ruined and harmed. But I also want you to know, as much as those national events are so important to us because every single one is, politics is local. You have got to vote for the right person on the local level. You've got to know their character. You've got to know who they are. You've got to know where they come from so that we can have good leadership. Because if they do win and they want to keep going up the ladder, most people go to the polls and they'll just vote for a name that they recognize. Well, it's our job as conservatives and Christians to make sure that those on the local level are just phenomenal. But we also have a great guest here today who's been a former legislator. And hey, Bob, how are you doing? And I just want to say, what's going on today in your mind? And we're excited about this show.
Yeah, I'm excited. We literally are bringing to you today, that's why you want to stay tuned, listen to the entire show, breaking news that affects everybody in the Commonwealth. And we are very blessed. We'll have her on after this opening segment, Adia Wushner, who is the executive director of Kentucky Right to Life. She's also, full disclosure, she's a very good friend of mine. And Adia, I don't know anybody that has worked as hard as Adia Wushner has, involving things, especially with the right to life in our state. She has been a champion and stayed on top of these things. And she's going to be sharing some things. In fact, a situation that actually brought RFK Jr. to our state to discuss, and something that he had to step in and we applaud him.
It's quite a story
for doing that. And so it's an exciting time. In fact, a friend of our family said, I think I saw RFK Jr. really weird at a local steakhouse the other day. And I passed along, well, you probably actually saw him, here. So
I'm amazed he wasn't asked to wrangle a snake. Have you seen him wrangle snakes?
Or lift any weights, that's for sure. But no, we are excited. Today's show is going to be a great one. And, holler to a friend and let them know we're on the air. And again, the information we'll be sharing is going to have an impact on every single Kentuckian.
And text us at 502-571-0970. And we are excited to have Adia Wushner. We're also going to have Ani Martis. She is running for commissioner in the city of Hurstbourne, and you can't get any more local than that. And we're thrilled to have Adia because she is a former state legislator. So this is going to be a great conversation. Bob, yep, going to be one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I guarantee it. You definitely want to stay tuned. You are listening to Kentucky's Voice. Again, text us with a question or comment, 502-571-0970. Stay tuned. We will be right back with more of today's show, Kentucky's Voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. And again, we want you to be part of the conversation at 502-571-0970. Bob, I'm really excited about Adia, so take it away. Let's get this conversation started.
I want to read it. Yes, and before I bring Adia on, I just want to read a statement that she just recently put out. It's obviously going to pertain today to today's discussion, and this is what she said. First, to be very clear, Kentucky Right to Life strongly supports the life-saving gift of ethical organ donation, but that gift must never come at the expense of the life, dignity, and safety of the donor. We are grateful to Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for their attention to these serious patient safety concerns and for taking action to strengthen accountability within our nation's organ procurement system. And this pertains to a story that happened over in the Richmond area. A gentleman, basically, I'm going to let Adia share. Adia, welcome to the program. We're just so glad to have you on. I think you can share it more concisely than I can, because it's horrifying. I mean, you know, what almost happened to this guy, and the fact that some whistleblowers and people stepped in to bring it to everybody's attention. But if you go ahead and share the story and tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you all for having me on Kentucky's Voice today and for covering this story. You know, when we talk about organ donation, it is the gift of life. And I always want to preference that in that. But what is ethical organ donation? As a nurse, as an individual, when we talk about that, that's always our concern. So a couple of years ago, an investigation began, a series of investigations, but one story made news and made headlines, and that was the story of T.J. Roberts, a gentleman who had signed his driver's license, was committed to donating his organs, and had a death event that happened after an overdose. He was taken to the hospital. His families were notified that he wished to be an organ donation, and that process started. And they wanted to honor TJ's wishes. So this particular story, and it's made a lot of news and a lot of headlines. It was part of a federal investigation, and there were other cases similar to this that have taken place. But this one, in TJ's story, he woke up or began to show some signs of life it's called an honor walk, because they're taking them from their room to begin the process. Part of the process is, if you're going to donate organs, is to see if that heart is viable. and it would be good for donation. So TJ was also taken to have a procedure like a cardiac cath to kind of look at it, where they could look at his heart, see what that organ looked like. And they took him then, and there's other parts to the story, but he was in the operating room. They began that procedure. And during that event, that's where the medical staff noticed that TJ was reacting. There was a call out apparently to the organ company that said, maybe increases sedation or his medication. And at the end of the story, the result is the medical team at the hospital was not going to continue this procedure, walked out of the procedure, and TJ was returned to his room and to his family. And they were told that TJ was not declared dead. He was actually alive. So, and there's different types of organ donation. We could talk about that. There's cardiac death, what we call DCD. There's circulatory death. So without getting into the weeds on that, but this story began because how did that happen? How did that happen? If you have a declaration of death, or it's been determined that they're going to take you off life support to harvest your organs, how are we about to harness or retrieve organs from a live person? So I heard about the story. I reached out and was contacted as well by what was called the whistleblowers, who were now preparing. This had become a congressional testimony and going before Congress on what was taking place and their experience in various cases and what they felt needed to be done. We met over the phone, we met in our office, and I began to look at this. But in all honesty, I also wanted to be fair. I wanted to hear the other side. We wanted to listen to Network for Hope. So they also came along with their lobbyists when I said, I'm proposing legislation to the Kentucky General Assembly. So we did that. We met in the office. They weren't very happy at the time. But I talked about, if you want to restore confidence in this process, then it's very simple. And they kept saying, but we're already doing this. I said, if you're already doing it, how did this happen? Right. And so what we proposed in Kentucky, it became House Bill 510. Representative Jason Nemes then carried the bill. And as we wrote, it was a simple pause in procedure, meaning after declaration of death or after it's determined that this person is an organ donator, if there is a change in neurological status, an attempt to breathe, thrashing about, anything that would indicate that this individual is not truly deceased, and we should take another look, there would be a pause in procedure. They would have to reevaluate that client, candidate, patient, and they would have to make an additional determination if this person was a qualified organ donor in Kentucky. And then that also requires reporting to CMS and reporting to the state to track those what we call positive procedures. So House Bill 510 passed by the General Assembly, by both chambers, and actually was signed by the governor and became law on July 15th.
Wow.
That's amazing. Can I ask a quick question? Would you mind? Now, did TJ, was he brain dead or did he survive? What is his story? I don't know this at all.
TJ, I was just at their home and visited with the Nikki and his sister Donna, who takes care of him full time. Oh. TJ was not left without impairments.
Right.
One of the things that's concerning, and TJ's cause of supposedly death at the time was a drug overdose. But it's also, how do we value those individuals who maybe we wouldn't agree with their lifestyle choices and it's impacted their life?
Right.
And so that's another question ethically. We have to always be clear in that we value the dignity of every life, no matter the circumstances on how they're conceived or where they are in their state of life and living.
Exactly.
But TJ was at therapy the last time I was there, that he lives in Richmond. And so he is left with permanent impairments. Oh. He still gets therapy. And one of the things I want to work on, he doesn't get as much therapy as someone who has like a brain injury would need. He needs more OT and he needs more PT and skill work. And they really need help. So that's something else I'm working on, because it's concerning to me that his therapy at this time is still limited. Patients like TJ, they plateau, they get better. But I have to tell you what's amazing about TJ. Do you know, after he realized he was still alive, he was concerned and related this to his family and staff and to his sister. What about the people that were waiting for my organs?
Oh, Oh,
And he still would not let them take him
gosh.
off the organ donation list. He still, in his life,
Oh,
wants to be an organ donor.
Mm.
how sweet.
He still very much believes, in giving that gift of life. So I just share that because it just touches my heart so because
Oh,
of
yeah. And
the
I'm just
convictions of who he
shuddering
is.
thinking about them taking his life. And I applaud that medical team for saying, we're not doing this. We're not going to do
And
it.
for the whistleblowers, Debbie, for
Yeah,
those
yeah.
that
I mean,
came
whoever
forward,
stopped the
I mean,
procedure and said, we're not doing
that could
this.
end your career because
Yeah.
Nikki worked for the organ procurement organization. She's not against organ donation. She's not
Right.
against it, but she also is for ethical standards of how this
Yes.
should be done. I just spoke to her yesterday. She
Absolutely.
just sent me a text this morning because I said, Nikki, what are the next steps? What do we need to do? Not just on a federal level, but what do we need to do? Sometimes we have to do it on a state level. And then we move on to the federal level. Doctors for Life Louisville, I spoke there on Saturday at their annual luncheon. They had a guest speaker, also retired anesthesiologist, talking on this very subject. And I spoke about House Bill 510 then and the importance. So sometimes people are like, well, isn't organ procurement federally regulated? It is. And much of that comes under the federal government with HRSA and CMS. But at the same time, there is a process here in the state of Kentucky, and we've got to make sure that those citizens here, that whether they want to be an organ donor or they're waiting for the gift of life, that the ethical process is always followed. And so I'm thankful that, I feel bad. I guess I shouldn't say bad. Network of Hope has wonderful people working there, committed to their call to save lives in organ donation. But there is right now, they have a pause. There's been a pause put on them.
Well, they've been decertified. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I was trying to say it nicely, but,
well, I don't always say it
But
nicely. But
this
yeah.
is serious. I'm
It
an
is.
organ donor. It's on my license. Wow.
But I hear what you're saying. I mean, I know that their intentions, generally speaking, are good for the most part.
But we have to ask some questions, Bob, and that's where we are now. And that's where, Secretary Kennedy, and that's where the department is. There's more questions to be answered and more process. Now, that doesn't mean an organ donation in Kentucky, those waiting are just sitting there. What happens, there are about 50 some odd certified organ procurement nonprofits in the country. Another company, another organization will come in to serve those clients at this time. Network.
Nobody likes to say this. It's big money. There's a lot of money involved here too. Let's be honest.
It is. Although it's a nonprofit, there's money. I'm hearing other reports about. Well, we'll just let it. There's some things we need to work on.
And we can come back and talk about it in 30 seconds because we've got more time.
And guess what? We're getting a lot of questions coming in
good.
too that we'll need to talk about those when we come back.
Goodness, Adia, this is crazy. It reminds me of the harvesting of baby parts. I'm just sick in my stomach thinking about it. Yeah, everybody we love hearing from you at 502-571-0970. Come back. We're coming back with Adia Wushner, Bob Scott, myself, and our future guest, Ani Martis. So we look forward to coming back. Don't go away. This is Kentucky's Voice, your voice.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
We are Kentucky's Voice, and we're back, and we're going to continue our discussion with Adia Wushner and Bob Scott on Secretary Kennedy's visit to Kentucky in regards to organ donation. So, Adia, we're going to let you continue taking it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Bob. You know, as we were talking, decertified, I use that pause and procedure because that's really what we call the law, the Kentucky Pause and Procedure Ethical Organ. And that's really what happened when Secretary Kennedy, they've been looking at this. I had been following these hearings. I'd been looking at his secretary's statements on this case and others. There was other areas they were looking at earlier in the year, like Florida. I think they had someone down there that may have been an organization decertified for a while. But, you know, he was very committed to assuring, I keep using that ethical organ donation, you know, that so they were, you know, this has been a long time investigation into in what was going on, the practices here in Kentucky. We have nowhere to go but to get better. So pause the procedure, decertification, that's what took place with Network for Hope. But, you know, the Kentucky Donate for Life Trust, I mean, they put out a statement, and I want to say these are they want to assure people not to be afraid, that it's still safe to sign the driver's license and consider being an organ donor, or those waiting. We have so many lives waiting, and I have a family member that's a recipient of organ donation. Our lives have all been touched.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I want to talk a little bit, if we could, Bob, if you want to talk about the driver's license.
And you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I recently had to update my license, and it was interesting because they didn't even ask if I wanted to be an organ donor. They just did it. You know, it was not even a part. Yes, that happened.
Okay.
And
Bob,
it came back.
Bob. That is a legal binding document.
I know.
And this is I actually want it to be posted where you get your driver's license. So something I want to work on. I wanted to put it on this bill. I want people to understand, and everybody assumes they do. When you sign, it's now electronic. You're not really signing the back of your driver's license.
That's right.
That is a legal binding document. So when if something unfortunate happens to you or a loved one and you arrive at the hospital, it's in the system. It's not like they're going to pull out your wallet and look at your driver's license.
Caroline got her driver's license renewed at the same time, and they did the same thing with her. You know, when we got it,
Oh my gosh.
we were never asked or anything was said to us about being an organ donor, but that happened. And now, that being said, you know, and this comes from, and we're getting lots of texts, and I do want to try to get these questions in or a statement. This issue will deter people from being organ donors. They're just making a statement, and that's kind of what we're talking about right now is the, you know, the fear of that happening, because generally speaking, I think it's a good program. You know, we just want to make sure that the folks that have donated their organs have indeed passed. You know, and
I think, Bob, you know, Kentucky's law, the new law here, was respectful of that. I think that something must be going on, or you would not have seen Secretary Kennedy here. And that process will continue on the decertification, but there still will be an organization that stops in, because people are waiting for organs and people are still willing to donate. It's not like the Grim Reaper's coming in and ripping your organs out, but the ethical process. And there are so many levels of donation, from your corneas, you know, to heart, to tissue, to grafting tissue. I mean, to lungs. You know, I have a friend, an acquaintance that had a double lung transplant, and that's amazing.
yes.
That is, you know, it's just amazing, this gift of life. But and I know viewers may be concerned, will this deter, you know, when they heard the news that they've suspended or decertified the organization. I'm glad we're having this conversation, because this is a real conversation. You know, you hear the news and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm on a waiting list, or, oh my goodness, I'll never donate my organs. I'll take my name off the list. So this story on TJ Hoover had been going on for a while. Many people, there had been a decline in people taking their name off the list. We knew that. And I said at the time to Network of Hope, because they feared the repercussion of the press when we were doing this bill. And I said, if you restore confidence in a system, those individuals will sign their driver's license. They'll want to be part of it. But as I said earlier, everyone needs to know that it is a legal binding contract when you sign it. So, and as a nurse, I've heard all types of stories. Well, we got to the hospital. My brother died by the time we were notified. His organs had already been received because they had to travel there, and it was time sensitive. So there's lots of stories, but it is a patient's wish, and it's electronically in the system. Also, when someone comes in to a facility that does not look like they're going to survive their injuries, and the hospital notes that they're in very, very critical, the organ procurement companies are also aware of that and may, and in a waiting period to maybe approach the family. Would you consider, maybe they didn't sign their driver's license, would you consider donating your loved one's organs? So there's two processes here, but it's just critical that we know that it's legally binding. Your family can't say, oh, I want to get my, my husband, my son, my relative off that list once they've signed it. Okay. It's their wishes and considered legally binding. What I'd like to see the General Assembly do, because some people don't know that, is to make sure that it's posted where you're getting your driver's license and where you're signing up, that they understand what that legal binding means. Because some people just said I didn't realize that.
Well, and I think a warning needs to be put out to those who signed up Bob and Caroline without their permission. That's scary also.
Bob, Caroline, you are not the first stories that I've heard, and who wanted just to get off because it was without their permission. And that was a challenging process to actually get that signature removed from the driver's license.
Okay. Wow. This is quite the discussion. Yeah. I saw the news of Kennedy being here and I thought, wow. And I saw the company or the organization, they said they're going to appeal, but I'm sorry, we have just become a nation of we don't regard life at all. Our moral underpinning, that's why I love this program, Kentucky's Voice, Christian conservatism, where we are able to speak the truth in love, but demand from I use the word demand. I want to demand from our lawmakers that they dig deep in their souls and that they absolutely do the right thing on these types of issues. It's just not right.
Debbie.
I mean,
when I sat with the attorney and the company, they're in the Kentucky Right to Life office in Louisville, and I said, are you uncomfortable? Because I said, look, it's not about us.
Right.
I can even not be at the table. I'm going to get. I write the notes. I prepare it. I help the lawmakers go forward in their talking points. And even some that were doing some press meetings yesterday. That's kind of my job, and it's great to work with them because I am a former legislator. So I know that, wanting to have the right words and understand. But I said, are you uncomfortable because you're in a Right to Life office and you look at us as, oh, we're about terminating the lives of unborn children? And I said, or you would say abortion. And maybe some of your supporters wouldn't agree. I said, we're about life. We're about honoring life from conception to natural death.
Exactly.
And this is where we step in to work, to represent the citizens, to work with legislators on whatever side of the aisle and individuals, kind of like to be the voice of the voiceless.
Exactly.
And on this situation on 510, we were the voice of Mr. T.J. Hoover and his family.
I know. I'm so grateful for that. Oh, my goodness. And you've just done
I got to
such
ask a quick question.
Yes, Bob,
Adia.
sorry.
Would you have some time to stay over? Or do you have to go after we go into this break for not necessarily a full segment, but we're getting a lot of texts coming in. A whole lot. If you don't, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Debbie and
Let me see if I can. I have an appointment here, and I'm just saying on there. Let me just check and see if I can jump back with you. And if I can, I will. How's that sound?
That'd be great, because we're going to go ahead and introduce our next guest. She's amazing, and your words of wisdom for her are coveted. So if you have that time, that would be amazing if you come back on with us. So, but everybody, thank you so much. Don't go away, because Kentucky's Voice, we're going to be back in just a few seconds. The number here is 502-571-0970. Thank you for listening with us. Stay with us. We're going to be right back. We've got an exciting end to our program. Kentucky's Voice.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. And if you've been joining us as a listener with our conversation with, Adia Wushner, she's going to be back with us in just a few moments. But we have another amazing guest. I so appreciate people that have the courage and the tenacity and the character to say, you know what, I'm going to step up and step out and serve my community, not just a volunteer over at church or for your children's groups or whatever they're doing, but for our nation, because we are one nation under God. We are 250 years old, and the only way this nation was built was from the local level up and from people who have chosen to serve and to familiarize people with what it means to be a great citizen, how to be involved, because this is our country, we the people. So I have a wonderful friend. Her name is Ani Martis, and she's a Louisville resident, and she is currently living in the city of Hurstbourne, and she has filed to run for commissioner, which is kind of like a Metro Council seat, but for the small city of Hurstbourne. She's an educator. She's been a community volunteer. I know that because we were moms together at our son's school, and she's always been dedicated to service. She graduated from Assumption High School, holds a degree of a Master of Public Administration and a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Louisville. And Ani, I'm so sorry. Is it Ani or I keep calling?
It's Ani.
It's Ani. Good. Ani, she brings experience in administration, community outreach, teaching, volunteer leadership, and bilingual communication. Habla español, no? Sí, muy bien. And through her professional and volunteer experience, she's focused on listening to people, building bridges, supporting families, strengthening communities. She is committed, and I know this because I know Ani. I know her to thoughtful leadership, practical problem solving, and serving with integrity. She's married. Some of you out in the community may know Dr. Michael Martis. He's the Vice President of Student Affairs at the University of Louisville. They have 3 children. Maria, who works in finance in New York City. James, a mechanical engineering student at U of L, a friend of my son's. They play basketball together. And Emily, who's a senior at Christian Academy. So that is a wonderful resume for a beautiful servant's heart. And Ani, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
We love it. And, you know, you and I talked a few weeks ago on the phone when you were thinking about running.
That's right.
And, you know, I've always had that passion. I would have loved to have run for office. It's never been the right time for me. Mm-hmm. But what a blessing that I get to sit here today and be a part of Kentucky's Voice. But what was it that drew you finally to say, okay, I've got to do this?
Well, you know, I have always loved service. That's really at the core of who I am. And my master's in public administration degree, I went through with that because I really care about people. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but if you know me, you know me.
Oh, yeah,
I really
know.
do. Yeah. And this opportunity came up in the city of Hurstbourne. I've lived there 12 years. I've raised my family there. I love my neighbors. I love my community. And I felt like it was a really natural segue to be able to serve. Not only I've served, like you said, I've served at church, I've served at school, and now I get the privilege of given the opportunity to serve my community that I love very much. So I'm really excited for this opportunity.
I know, it's great. Now, their local government, they have a mayor, and then how many of these commissioners are there?
There's 4 commissioners and a mayor. And once everyone is appointed, then the responsibilities are divided, and really everybody serves as an equal member of the commission.
Right. What would be your passion in the community that you would want to do?
You know, my passion is really community building. Since living in Hurstbourne for the past 12 years, there's been opportunities to get to know your neighbors, but I would really love to get back to that grassroots where you know your neighbor next door and you're going on vacation and the neighbor is like, I got you. I'll watch your house. I think the more and more I've gotten a chance to meet our neighbors, our residents, they want to go back to block parties. They want to have the opportunity to connect with other people. And they also share concerns about safety, which I think most cities in the city of Louisville have. So
I know. I couldn't agree more because I just moved my son, who's a University of Louisville student also. He moved from one house to about a block down the street on 3rd Street, and we were moving him in over the weekend, and we were all trying to find a place to park. So I went and knocked on the neighbor's door, and because I saw cars there, just to say, hey, can we park here? I knocked at the front door. Then I went to the side door and I knocked. So I thought, oh, well, nobody is here. But later that afternoon, Ani, you're so right. This young woman comes out and she looked at me very sternly like, hey, you are the lady that was on my Ring camera today. And I said, yes, ma'am, I was. I said, probably, yeah. I was trying to find out if you all were home to get permission to park here because these boys are all moving into the house right now. But love her heart, she was so afraid and so terrified. And I said, I just wanted to meet you and say, you know, we didn't want to take advantage of you, but to let you know who we are. And so you're so right. You're so right. That would be wonderful in your community. You've got to have that person that does that.
Right. I think we're so desperate right now in our country as a nation. We are the most connected that we've ever been in the world, but we're the loneliest at times.
I agree.
So I think my desire is to build that community where we are united, where everyone feels welcomed and they have a voice.
They do. I mean, there's always so many things that go on in a small community that need help, that need, attention. What are some of the things, and like I said, I'm sure you agree, don't you agree? You need great local people that are running.
Absolutely. I think we've lost the level of integrity within our leaders, and I would like to bring that back. I would like to bring integrity. I would like to bring back the Bible verse that comes to my mind is, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall inherit the kingdom of God. I would love to be a peacemaker.
Yeah.
In a world where we can be at times divided, I would like to bring people together to create community and foster a better working environment where we can work alongside each other and get things done. And safety obviously is a concern for our community as the city is expanding and growing, which is not bad, but it brings different issues. We have traffic issues that need to be addressed. So that's what I would like to bring to the table.
Right. Now, in the Hurstbourne area, I know, do you all have like the beautiful Oxmoor home, the Oxmoor Woods home?
Yes.
That's part of you. And then the Oxmoor Country Club.
Yes.
And then just other general neighborhoods. Explain a little bit more about the Hurstbourne neighborhood so people listening know where you are.
So if you think of Shelbyville Road and Hurstbourne, that intersection, that neighborhood that is kind of tucked in, there's the Hurstbourne Baptist Church is located in our neighborhood. Oxmoor Woods Parkway is located in our neighborhood. We have, if you keep down in the intersection of Shelbyville Road and Hurstbourne, you have all those shopping centers, P.F. Chang's.
Oh, yeah.
Heine Brothers.
Right.
That area right there. We've seen a lot of growth as far as we have apartment complexes that are being built currently across from Top Golf.
Right.
All of that area, not Oxmoor, not the mall, but if you think of the other side, is considered Hurstbourne. And it's got a beautiful tradition and beautiful history dating back before the nation, really.
Really?
It's
well,
wonderful.
I remember, I think our friend, our mutual friend who's the docent at the Oxmoor House, I think I can't even think of his name right now, Francis Scott Key, who wrote the Star Spangled Banner, his first cousin is buried in that little graveyard.
Yes, it's amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
All of you, if you're a history buff and want to know more about the city of Hurstbourne, I consider that you would research it. But the founding Colonel Richard Anderson established his home there many, many years ago, 1789. But he actually walked with George Washington in across the Delaware River.
That's crazy.
There's so much history of Hurstbourne, and he ended up settling, originally from Virginia, settling in Louisville in that area, which is called Soldiers Retreat. So if you travel down Hurstbourne Parkway across from Barnes & Noble, you cross over to our neighborhood, you can see his burial, and they've actually have a new plaque. One of the commissioners, John May, he dedicated a section to this, and for the 250th anniversary, we were able to celebrate his life.
That's amazing.
And his contribution to the city, and
that's
amazing. It's great.
Now, how many people are running for commissioner?
There are currently 7. people
7 for 4 positions.
Yes.
Well, I want everybody to know, Mr. Producer, if you would mind, put up Ani's card so people can know how they can vote for Ani. So I love those QR codes. Vote Ani Martis. Oh, listeners, this lady is so amazing. I've known her for years and years. And so please, I hope that you will support Ani. Tell your neighbors or people that you know that live in the Hurstbourne community to vote for Ani. I just think it's great. And also John May, you mentioned his name. He's also running for mayor, right?
Yes, correct.
He's a commissioner, and I think he's also an outstanding candidate as well. Knows so much about real estate, PVA. He was our PVA for a while. Just a great businessman. So I can't imagine 2 better leaders in Hurstbourne than Ani Martis and John May. So, but Ani, what else do you want people to know? How can they help you? Tell them what they can do. Are you going to do any walking in your neighborhood?
I am. I'm currently walking the neighborhood, passing out cards. And if you have any questions or concerns or want to reach me directly, my email is it's listed ANEIRA Martis at hotmail.com.
So ANEIRA MARDIS Ani Martis at Hotmail or Anira Martis at Hotmail.com. Goodness, I know. And where is your country of origin or your family?
I was actually born in Panama, and I could talk about this forever, but it's one of the reasons, too, why I'm passionate about service.
Yes.
Because having been born in another country and lived in the United States the majority of my life since the age of 9, I am so grateful, and I have such a full heart of gratitude for this country and for the sacrifices that were made for the people that came before, that allow a girl from a small town in Panama to come to the U.S., build her life, have a family, and grow. I have such an appreciation. And I think a lot of Americans don't realize what a special place the United States is. And I am so blessed beyond measure. So it brings me great gratitude to be able to give back to a country and a city that is giving so much to me.
Oh, Ani, that's amazing. And I know Bob is appreciating listening, and we're going to come back with, hopefully we're coming back with our other guests. But Ani, I am so proud of you. I just am thrilled to pieces that you're doing this.
Well, thank you.
We need great servants, and you are one of them. You are a worker. You love America. You love your family, and you love Jesus. You love God. And this audience, they appreciate that. So those of you that know anyone that lives in Hurstbourne, here in Louisville, they've got to vote for Ani Martis for commissioner. Do not forget Ani Martis. And Ani, thank you so much for being with us. And we're going to be right back, everybody. Don't go away, because we have Adia Wushner coming back to finish up our conversation on the pro-life issues and the organ donation. We'll be right back.
back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. And Bob, I know you have a lot of texts and questions for Adia, so I'm gonna give it to you guys.
Adia was gracious enough to hang around. I know she enjoyed the last segment as well, being someone, a female who started by throwing her hat in the ring and rose to great prominence, in the various positions she's held. She has a nursing background too. Really haven't talked much about that. On top of everything else. I have a family
of nurses, a lot of them.
So again, we're blessed as a state to have Adia Wushner out there. I consider on the front line fighting for every Kentuckian. I want to get to these questions or comments that are coming in because there are a lot. We've been talking about the gentleman that almost had his organs harvested and he was still alive. When that almost happened, and it, needless to say, created a firestorm that led to some really good legislation, as a result of it. And Adia Wushner was the tip of the spear on that, to help get that across the finish line. And congrats to our state legislature. And I'll say it, you won't hear me say this too often, but congrats to our governor who
doing the right thing. Finally,
for once did the right thing, But here's some of the comments. Going back to some of the comments that were made earlier, this issue will deter people from being organ donors. That's a concern. When a whistleblower fears for their job, it explains how unethical 90% of doctors, nurses, and medical staff really are. I don't know if it's 90%, but that's their opinion. My last stay in a local well-known hospital proved it. I fortunately have a friend that is a surgeon that intervened and saved my life. I'll tell you straight up, statistically, and this is a fact, people that have someone, because you're in I know, Adia could tell you, she came and saw me when I was on the verge of death, laying in a hospital bed, and I was blessed to have people around me, my wife and people like Adia that were there to
advocates
and be an advocate, for me. And let me get to another comment here too. Here we go. This I can't read all of this because it's a book. But let me just try
sum it
like
up.
My texts, they're novels.
Yeah. Yes. And they make talk about the issue is. This is part of a multicultural appropriation from other religions into the U.S. medical profession. The weeds do matter. That's where Christian ethics speak, with regard
Very
to
interesting.
Yes. And another person says, my eldest son was already instructed not to sign the organ donation. This assumes a high trust in society. And they make a statement that I agree with pretty much. And a lot of things, we don't have that trust anymore. And then they get another person says, when is death? Euthanasia is wrong because human murder is wrong and human life ends at death. And then again, there was a lot more to this. I wish we could post these so people could actually read them for themselves. Again, we don't have enough time to do that.
It's amazing thought processes, though.
End of life technologies outside of capital punishment and war, the deliberate killing of a human being before the cessation of that person's brainstem activity is murder. Murder is involved when a person deliberately acts in such a way as to directly lead to another person's death. That was a comment. And again, I'm scrolling through this. Adia, I guess my question for you is, it is a complicated subject, and it is something that we who are pro-life, have to look at all the aspects of it, and obviously the bill 905 that got passed was critical, as far as,
It's a first step, Bob.
yeah.
And I want to jump in. I want to thank everyone who's listening today, every one of those comments, and say you
Yeah.
can always call me at my office. I'm not in the office today, but you can always come by the office. I'm a nurse. I'm also an ethicist. This is what, I study bioethics. What is that ethics of life? We have a bios for life that should be ingrained within all of us. And how do we balance that? When you take organ donation, end of life, beginning of life, we fought off a bill, and we have a bill that we're going to bring back again next year that has to do with any medications that makes trafficking of any medication that intentionally terminates life. And that's whether it's the beginning of life or the end, because now it's not even assisted suicide. That's against the law. But now they, like in Illinois, they sort of circumvent it and they come up with medical aid in dying. Maybe another time on the show, we'll talk about a segment of a family that called me whose loved one got those medications from out of state, and he was older and it was their father and they didn't know what to do. He had ended his life, and he suffered actually for 19 hours at home. But that's another discussion. So as technology progresses and the more we can do, I always go back to that Jurassic Park question from the movie, because I'm old. Maybe some people haven't seen it.
You are not.
But there's a scene where he holds up that ember, and in there is the DNA of the dinosaur. And he says, just because science can do something, should we? And so sometimes I always come back to that. We have to ask ourselves, that has to ethically be our question, because we can do something. Should we? On this issue of organ donation, it is the gift of life. But I think for everyone, and there's probably many people listening that have been the recipient. I have a cousin who's a little bit older, and his organ that he received has worn out. He received it at the Mayo in Florida, and they wanted to put him back on the list. And he said, I had a good run. I had 15 years. He said, let someone else who's on that list waiting. Don't put me back on the list right now. My life, I'm 70 some odd years old, but he was grateful. And you hear so many beautiful, beautiful stories. But again, this is about, and we have wonderful nurses and physicians and those in hospitals. I'm the first one, Bob, to call out something when it's not right. That's right. What was taking place here. I mince no words. I will tell you, probably 25 years ago, as founder of the Institute for Humanity and Medicine, I was putting on a conference in Atlanta and did just this subject, organ donation and organ procurement. And I had two ethicists. And it was interesting. I got very nervous because you know what? In the middle of this segment, they had competing views on this issue.
Crazy.
And I was like, oh no, my whole piece is blowing up. But we go back to this. This is a very tender area. But again, and I know people are concerned that are maybe waiting, people won't donate. If individuals have the assurance that it's a process that is safe and ethical, and it respects that person's wishes, along with respecting the ethical boundaries of healthcare, then there will be those that are willing to donate their organs. And then there's those that do live donation, which means I'm alive. I want to give I've got a great kidney and I want to share one of them. I've got two, right? And I want to share them with someone else. Yeah. I don't think mine would be so great. They've had a lot of chemo agents run through them, but with cancer. But I say that to remind people that there's many ways that donations are made. If you're unsure about signing the back of your driver's license, or you want to take your name off, I encourage everyone, you have to have a healthcare proxy. It's even different than a living will. Have someone write your wishes down that you trust in your family. Have two people, because these are hard decisions for family members to make, but that understand are your wishes and what you desire. Should you come to that point in time where your life is has a lot of complications, or that it's the end of your life, that they understand your wishes.
You're right, because I was thinking we've done that in our family, but we've also done it for a dear friend who's a widow and has no one, and she's been very clear. So that gives me great peace that if something happens, since we are the ones that will be taking care of her, that relieves a lot of stress. from a family.
I'm
You're
actually a
exactly
medical
right.
health care proxy for a lot of individuals. There's a simple form, but it's important. Sometimes let's say your spouse or your closest family member, you have to have multiple understanding because they may not be, it may be more challenging for them to make that decision. It's very hard to say goodbye.
Yeah.
It's just, and so
Yeah.
that challenge. So I just encourage listeners to, think about that. Think about if they're concerned about the driver's license or what's on there, to make sure that they have a healthcare proxy, that they've reiterated their wishes.
May I ask you a question, Adia? With the last couple of minutes we have, are you encouraged and excited that at least praying in the name of Jesus, we win the midterms, that you all can get so much more accomplished nationally and on the state level on issues that are of great concern in the pro-life movement? To give us a quick summation on that.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's a good
As you know, I
question.
go back and forth. Thank you, Debbie. I go back and forth to Washington. We have individuals on the Hill all the time. I was there just a couple months ago. I'll see Congressman Barr running for U.S. Senate again. We know that the midterms, everything is at stake. And I want to tell folks, the other side, Congressman Barr was explaining this at a breakfast a couple weeks ago. And then I was listening to others talk about it. And I've been reiterating this. There is an enthusiasm meter. That's what wins elections. We win them on the doorstep. We win them door to door. But there's an enthusiasm, and I'm very enthusiastic. You're enthusiastic.
We
You
do.
are.
And
But
we've got it
the
for this
truth
race.
is, we need our voices to be voters, to be enthusiastic, because the other side that sounds a little crazy to us. Well, a
Yeah,
lot
they
crazy.
are crazy.
Do you know if there was a meter and it was 1 to 10, they're about at a 12.
Oh my gosh.
We kind of go along because that's our personality.
We
Steady
go
Eddies,
along to
right?
get along.
Yeah.
We go along at about a 5. We need to up our enthusiasm as we move into this midterm. So that's what I'll leave you with.
No, I agree with you. And we need to be committed, absolutely committed to voting. Bob and I talk about this. We talk about it on the show all the time. But your movement, what you're doing is critical. I believe it's so foundational for Christians. Just the question of life, goodness gracious, just how we've perceived it, how we've treated it. This makes a difference.
We're wounded in our culture, Debbie. We're wounded by 50 years. I try to tell people it's legal for 50 years.
Yeah.
We can't recover that. We're doing a big splash in October. It's going to be Culture of Life tour around the state. We'll talk maybe about that another time.
Yes, we'll have you back. And I know Bob and I are grateful for everybody being here today. Thank you, Adia. Thank you, Ani. Vote for Ani and Hurstbourne, and people help support pro-life, and vote in November. We're going to see you very soon. Thank you for listening to Kentucky's Voice. We are your voice. Thank you for letting us in your car and your homes.